Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Giant Pod. Yes, that's right, we are back. Thank you so much for the patience while we put this together, and thank you so much for all of the streams and the love from Season 1. It really was a blast making it, and it's been so enjoyable to see everyone eating it up the way that you have. So thank you so much for that. We have got one hell of a season for you. I'm not going to give you any teasers for it. You're just going to have to take my word for it. My guest this week is stand-up comedian and podcaster Rich Wilson. We talk about his life prior to becoming a stand-up comedian. We talk about his journey to becoming a professional stand-up comedian via cutting his teeth as a compere and an MC. We talk about our favourite comedians. We talk about the nuts and bolts of stand-up comedy and the mechanics of great stand-up material. We talk about his two podcasts, Insane in the Men Brain and Insane in the Fem Brain. I will put a trigger warning out there. These are podcasts based around open and honest mental health discussions, and so there are mentions within our conversation about mental health and suicide and various other things, so please be warned there. We talk about what it's like to be dating the powerful and very famous in her own right stand-up comedian Jade Adams. She is all over this podcast, by the way, so listen out for her heckling Rich all the way through this, which is quite amusing. We talk about having ADHD and minds that just don't turn off. We talk about loads of things. It was a really, really great chat. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a great way to kick off season 2. I just want to thank Rich again for his time. We had a Sunday evening before dinner, and he was very generous, and we had a very, 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 very good chat. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. I hope you do as much as I have. So yeah, here we go. Welcome to Season 2 of the Giant Pod. This is Rich Wilson. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
No, still not happening. Hold on. Wait.
Granddad.
No, I'm not Granddad. If I turned up with a combine harvester and I went, here, I'll drive that, you wouldn't be able to do it either. So,
How long have computers been in the world?
computers have been in the world for a very long time, Jade. There's nothing that says sound.
There is. System preferences.
Yeah, I'm in him.
Right, sound is in the middle of the screen, just there.
It's not.
Look at what I'm doing.
Yeah, go on.
Apple.
Yes.
System preferences.
Yes.
Look at the system preferences.
Wait.
And there is a sound.
It does not coming up. Oh, hang on. Yeah, it is. Output, headphones, input, internal microphone.
Yep.
Hello.
What would you do about that?
I don't know. See, this is it's shocking, isn't it? All right, there we go. How's that?
Yeah, all good for me. How you doing? You cool?
I'm all right. We're having that age-old discussion of what to have for dinner.
Caught you before dinner, have I?
Do we cook something? Do we order something? It's basically a conversation that happens 3 times a day.
What are you leaning towards?
Who knows, man? It depends. It all changes within 10 minutes of the conversation starting. Like, one of us will go, there's stuff to have in the fridge. And then the other one will go, yeah, but, we should just get takeaway. Fuck it. And then the other one will go, all right, let's cook something. And then the other one will go, oh, let's get takeaway, like you said. And then we end up not eating anything.
It's a good diet.
We'll see. Yeah. Well, I say that. I mean, the size of me. I'm obviously eating something.
What takeaway usually wins out?
Oh,
what's a good one?
We've rinsed them all. We've done the lot. I think we've done every kind of scenario, every version, everything. I don't know what to do. I don't know. It's a nice place to be in. It's a nice position to be in. I'm not moaning, but it's hard. What a hard life. Deciding what takeaway you're going to have.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Got to check my privilege, man.
Check it. Check that.
Check it.
What? Where were you the other day when I spoke to you? Because the connection was so bad when we tried to do this a couple of days ago that I couldn't even figure out really where you were, what you were saying. Were you at some sort of job? A job?
Yes.
A day job?
Well, some mad dude went off east and had a bat for his lunch.
No, he didn't.
And then the rest of us, all right, conspiracy, John. And then so I'm getting heckled by Jade Adams, my partner, who's telling me that it didn't happen in a market. Someone ate a bat. It's man-made, but
lab
that's
in Wuhan.
Yeah. What? Sorry.
A lab in
Wuhan. Do you have anything to back that up? Wuhan. Yeah, the Wu-Tang clan. Anyway, because of that, not because of Jay mouthing off, but because of whatever happened and continued to happen, I lost all my live work, which is what I do. I'm a live performer. So I was a bit stuck for a bit, but the guys at SOS Clothing, good lads, they said, we need someone here. We're doing all our stuff online. Do you want to come and do this? And I went, yes. So nice. I was working in there. I was in their office upstairs.
Right.
But unfortunately, the connection wasn't strong enough for us to have our chat. But now here we are.
Here we bloody are.
Getting our heads around the technology. Old granddad's in the future now.
So, I basically, with this podcast, what I do is I just sort of like tell people's stories in a way.
All right.
So I guess we'll just sort of, maybe let's just begin. I mean, because you've only been a comedian for 15 years, but before, but like, where was this? Where were you born? What was your journey into comedy?
I was born in Bromley Hospital. Bromley, famously, where David Bowie comes from, and Susie from Susie and the Banshees. So Susie being part of the Bromley contingent, the punk outfit that would go to all the gigs. That was in 1972, and then I just kind of cartwheeled and ricocheted through my life. No real direction, no real no plan. I kind of just, someone would go, "Do you want to come and do this?" I go, "Yeah, fine." I go and do that, and I ended up working at Up the Creek 20 years ago. This month, 20 years ago, I started Up the Creek as a barman. I got moved to be a manager. I wasn't a very good manager, I'll be honest. Apparently I was too nice. I was too nice. So, yeah, and then just got friendly with some of the other comics. And then one of them, Silky, had his own gigs. And he said to me, he goes, "I think you should do this. You've got your first gig in 2 months' time.
Right.
You've got to do it. You can't back out." And
so he just forced you into it?
Yeah, I just sort of fell into it. And, now, sort of 15, 16 years later, here I am talking to you. It's
quite good at it now, aren't you?
Doing all right, mate. Doing all right. Turns out all that dicking around for years actually started paying off. And I had some interesting stories to tell and experiences, and I was able to make them funny and make a few quid. So it was all right.
So how did you go about crafting your first ever stand-up set? Was it kind of like, if you look back on it now, obviously there's 15 years of growth and development and whatnot, but you look back on it now and think, God, that was crude, or that was rough. How did it go?
I think crafting is quite a push. I don't know if I was crafting it. It's just winging it, more like, maybe winging it. It's funny because I started off, I did my first few gigs and they went all right. They weren't, I didn't, like most people, didn't smash it, but I didn't die horribly. It was fine. But then I got given a gig as an MC. I was MCing, it was for B&Q, the DIY thing. I got given a corporate to MC from them, and because I was chucked in at the deep end, it had to work. Yeah. And it turned out I was all right at comparing. So that got me in the doors of most comedy clubs. Right. Because everyone wants to headline, everyone wants to be the star. No one really wants to be in defense. Yeah. Doing the MCing. So that got me into a lot of places. So I'm able, because I MC a lot, I'm able to sort of write as I go on stage. Like as I'm talking to people in the audience, things will come and ideas will happen, and then they evolve into bits. So that's kind of how I do it, really. All accidental as well. That's not a plan.
Right. So that's sort of like where you cut your teeth then.
Yeah, just MCing in, some of the greatest places on earth, and some of them not so much. There's one I did recently with a couple of us, and it was it was for one of them. It's a football pub, if you like, and so it's quite rough and rowdy. They wanted comedy, but they wanted it to be about them. And it's, if you can handle that, then you can handle most places.
Right.
You know, there was a threat. There was not violence, but there was an undercurrent of, you know, be funny or you're going to get your head kicked in, in a playful, cuddly way.
Yeah, and I kind of know the vibe you mean.
Yeah, so I think it's doing those gigs that are like character building. Really, you know, we can all. You learn more at the tough gigs than you do at the really nice ones, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything from your first set that you would feel you could rework and bring into a set now? Was there anything from the early days that you're like, actually, I kind of like that one. That was a bit of a zinger. I might bring that one with me.
There's a lot of my stuff, it kind of evolves.
Right.
So a lot of the seeds of it come from my first gigs, you know, and anything that, as you go along and you get booked to do, you know, there's like you were saying just now about being crude and things like that. My stuff was quite crude.
Right.
At the beginning, like most people's is. You're not, you know, you don't realise that there's certain things that you might say with your mates that you wouldn't necessarily say in polite company, and you learn that as you go. When, you know, you can tell by the reactions from people if it's, you know, or what you do, you video it and then you watch it back and you're like, oh my God, that's awful. So, you know, and of course, you know, 16 years, that's a lot of things have changed. And so I saw recently some videos of me that will never see the light of day. They will never see the light of day.
Right.
Because the things I was talking about, which were fine, they were up, you know, they were borderline iffy, but they weren't too bad. But now it's like, there's no way that those people, they've been deleted. There's no way that people will ever see those. But you learn, don't you? You learn these things. But yeah, there's an element of all my stuff from when I started in the stuff that I do now. It's just evolved into what it is now. Yeah,
I was just watching your episode on the is it Living La Vida Lockdown podcast? And you were talking about getting a new job for the, you know, during COVID, and they were asking for a CV. And and you were saying, well, what can I put on my CV? I was just talking about my knob for 15 years.
That's basically it. Yeah, I do. When people have said, "Do you feel successful?" and I've said, "Yeah," you know, I've travelled the world talking about my penis. Basically, there's more to it than that. But and I do get told off. Where like Jade will go, "Stop downplaying it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a funny thing to say, isn't it?" But yeah, it's not going to go well on the CV. What have you been doing for the last 15 years?
So what do you miss? Because a lot of the guys on that podcast were saying that, they were saying the thing that they miss the most is the green room.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never been in a comedy green room. I've been backstage a lot. I've drummed. I've been lucky enough to drum all over the world with my punk bands and stuff. So I know what like backstage locker room banter, and I know how it goes, but I've never been privy to what comedians say to each other that they cannot take on stage.
I don't even know if it's that. I think there is. Our boundaries are obviously further out, and so there are things that we would say to each other that will never fall upon the ears of the common man. They will forever be locked in the green rooms of comedy clubs and WhatsApp groups. But it's more about just seeing your friends. You know, you might not necessarily ring each other up to meet up and go for coffee or whatever, but you look forward to seeing each other at gigs and catching up. And I've said this before. Comedians we're not special or anything like that, but we're odd and we don't really fit in. Like you're probably as a musician, you'll know exactly what I mean. Yeah. We don't really fit into nobody really fits into anywhere, really. This structure that we're supposed to all live in is bollocks, and it should be, you know, we're animals fundamentally, and having to fit into this societal framework is, of course, that's why we're all mentally ill now. But comedians, musicians, and people like that, we don't really fit into that world. We're night creatures, and we're odd, and we're a bit socially awkward. But comedy it was our universe. You know, we all silently we silently understood each other. We'd see each other, and we'd be like, "Yeah, you're weird. Yeah, you're weird as well. But let's be weird together." And that's all unsaid, and but that all got taken away. So now you've got all these weird creatures with nowhere. We've lost our habitat, and now we're all we're just stuck on our own. And of course, we're all spiraling because we're, I think this has shone a light on the fact that, like I've just said, we're all a bit weird. Human beings are weird. It's mad that we exist, and we're all weird. None of us really fit into anything, but we're all trying.
Yeah,
and I think that's if we start to talk about that, the fact that all of us feel awkward. Only psychopaths really feel like they fit in.
Yeah, I mean, there's this. This whole thing has forced everyone to look themselves in the eye. Yeah, and you start to. It's really difficult to keep focused on things that are supposedly important when you look at the news and you look out the window and you're like, everything's fucked. What's the point in anything? And you really have to dig deep and find some like resolve to keep going. Do you know what I mean? You're like, because you go, what's the point? The world's on fire. No one likes each other. It's all falling apart. What's the point? And that's a really dangerous place to be. So it really does come down to you and you going, right, fuck it. I'm gonna push through this. I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I think that's what this has shown now, is that it's up to us to stay strong and push on and try and help each other through this shit. It's mad. It's mad. It's all mad. In many ways, it's leveled the playing field. I know you've got people like Bezos and your billionaires, millionaires, elites, whatever, who aren't experiencing the exact same reality as us, but they're just as vulnerable to this thing as we are. Do you know what I mean? Mother Nature knows no.
Yeah, man.
It doesn't look at your bank account or what you're driving.
No. Nature, as you said in Jurassic Park, nature finds a way. It's how it is. Nature will always top trump us.
Yeah.
This thing about money and wealth and that's just it doesn't even exist really. It's just a thing that human beings have put on. They've put this grid on us now that we all have to earn money and make money and do this with money and money. But money doesn't really exist. I was talking to Richard Herring about this the other day on my podcast, and he said the same thing. Like, if we all turned around one day and went, well, it's not important. Let's try something else. It would be gone. They are still in a vulnerable position, really. If one day the internet just gets switched off, for whatever reason, they'll just be as fucked as the rest of us.
Yeah. Someone goes under the ocean and cuts those cables.
Yeah, this is all getting quite dystopian already.
Yeah, let's pull back. Let's pull back.
It's all gone very bleak. We're quickly
on the precipice of the void here. You said something earlier about comedians and how they and how you sort of see each other and you sort of know it's an unspoken thing. You're in it together. What I've always found fascinating, what I really respect about stand-up comedy is you can be a great actor. You can host a great radio show. You can be a great dancer if you want. You see it on Dancing on Ice or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You can learn an instrument and write a couple of good songs. Yeah, and quite often we find people in the entertainment world, these celebrities or whatever, who are great actors, great singers, great dancers, and they can host a great podcast or whatever. But it's very, very, very rare to find someone that does great acting, is a great musician, and has the stand-up comedy element to what they do, because it's such a different beast, isn't it? It's often lumped in with the entertainment world, but it's its own lane, isn't it? And it's so hard to find people that cross all of those lanes seamlessly.
Yeah, you can. It's a funny one with comedy. You can teach people how to write a joke, and you can teach people how to perform that joke. But being funny is just in you. It's just the thing. And when you start, it's a very difficult thing to describe. There are people that are like, there's acts that we know that they didn't do stand-up. It's all written comedy. Like Ricky Gervais was never a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
But he's a very, very funny man. So it's all, he's learned how to write funny and how to perform it. But he didn't start off as a stand-up. It's a funny one. I don't know. There are some. There's one or two people that are brilliant at everything. Yeah, like Jared Leto. He's a great actor, brilliant musician. He looks fantastic. But there's 5 of those people that exist in the world. Yeah,
I think is it Donald Glover? Childish Gambino.
Donald Glover, yeah. Childish Gambino, he's another one. He's brilliant. Jennifer Lopez is great. She's good at what she does, and they're just. There's it'd be nice to be able to just.
I think Jamie Foxx is another.
Jamie Foxx,
inherently funny.
Yeah, very funny, man. Yeah. Those, that's. I hate them. I hate those people. Very talented. I've literally I'm lucky enough to be. I am funny. I'm not being big-headed. I am able to make people laugh, and that's. I'm blessed that I'm able to do that. Everybody wants to be seen as funny or known as funny, don't they? Yeah. In the office or in the van or wherever you are. Yeah, well, it's a nice. Yeah. Everyone, oh yeah, he's hilarious. This one, he's bloody hilarious. Everyone wants to be that.
Yeah. Oh, he's a right card. This one, you'll love him.
This one. Was it Sean Lock's got this great bit? He's such a character. He can't walk past a hat without trying it on.
So what are your sort of comedy icons? Because I've always loved guys like when I was a kid, I really loved guys like Chris Tucker, Jim Carrey, Chris Rock. This is more sort of comedic acting. I know. I was watching Kenneth Williams.
Excellent
interviews the other day. Just so funny. But I think my favourite comedians are like Bill Hicks, George Carlin. Yeah, the guys that are like got some real dark stuff going on, and they've got this sort of rock and roll. They're almost not anti-comedy, but they don't come across as your typical stand-up comedian. Like they're on their own thing, aren't they?
There's a next level. It's like anything. It's like you see, when Oasis were massive, there was 20 bands that sounded like Oasis for a bit, and then what happens is you'll get, someone's is one of the greats when people start to emulate them. So, when Russell Howard popped up and everyone wanted to be Russell Howard, and then James Acaster at the moment, there's lots of James Acasters right now. I think, Jade Adams, of course, Jade Adams. Yes, there are lots of Jade Adams popping up now. One in particular.
Did you get the look then? Did you get a look then?
Yeah, she threw me then because I was talking about all these people that get emulated, and she looked at me like, "And you're the best, Jade." I think there are some people that are just next level. Like there's a load of us going around, and we all get booked at comedy clubs, and we all do really well. People trust us to book us for their comedy clubs. But there's just some people that come along that are they're just on another level. Their way, their world outlook, everything they do is just. Kevin Bridges is a fine example of that. Kevin Bridges started when he was like 9, right? But came out as fully formed as Kevin Bridges is now, like one of the best. And I admire those people, like say Carlin, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was a big influence on me when I was growing up. His show Delirious at the time was one of the best things that we'd ever seen. We were kids and we saw this incredible thing. Now, looking back, it's from beginning to end, it's problematic as fuck. And you looking back now, you're like, oh God, yeah, that was a bit too much. But at the time, it was groundbreaking. It blew our minds. And so, it'd be nice to be seen as that, wouldn't it? Like if you but you're either that or you're not. You know,
Yeah.
like Bill Hicks and this thing. You can. I remember I had when Louis C.K. first popped up, and I remember walking around with Louis C.K. in my ears just constantly because I wanted to be that influenced by him. I was like, how does he think? What happens? It was such a massive influence on me.
Yeah.
And then he wanked off in front of loads of people. So it kind of put me off. But,
Yeah.
you know, I would love to I'd love to have that brain. But I just don't have it. I'm funny, but I don't think I've got that. I haven't got that extra bit that they seem to have. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. And it usually comes from, I think with comedians, a lot of it is how fucked up are they, and how obsessed does that make them? Because Howard Stern, you could count him as a comedian, I guess.
Yeah.
Reading his book and hearing about his life story, anyone who's like him, who has that level of success. Joe Rogan is another very successful comedian, isn't he? He obviously has the podcast and other things going on. They are just obsessive personalities, aren't they? They're absolutely to the point of, you know, perhaps you could have benefited from a little bit of therapy. You may not have been as successful as you are now, but you might be a little happier in life.
Well, I think some of it, a lot of it comes from confidence as well. They have confidence. They have complete belief in what they're saying.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, and it's a confidence and a belief that I personally have to really work at. I have to, you know, I'm quite insecure about a lot of things. And so I'm always worried that I'm going to say something. Oh, is this going to be the thing that offends someone? Oh my God, am I saying the right thing?
Yeah, yeah.
But these guys just have complete belief in what they're saying. They go, they know they know what they're saying, and they just say it, and it's admirable. You know, it's something that I'd love to have that confidence instead of worrying about. I think I worry more about people liking me than most things. I should chill the fuck out.
Do you, when you, like, it was interesting earlier when you said that you were listening to a lot of Louis C.K., trying to figure out how his mind works. I don't read an awful lot of fiction, but one of my mates said to me once that, you know, when you read fiction, you really get to figure out how the author's head works.
Right, okay.
And sort of what kind of person they are and how they see the world if you read enough of their books, and obviously if they're a good enough writer. And I think that kind of speaks to that. But do you ever get a moment when you go, oh, I can see where you've connected these dots? Because you've got to get from point A to point B, C, whatever, and then you've got to get to your punchline, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you ever listen and you go, oh, I can see the evolution of this joke and where you've taken it probably where I would have taken it. Or do you hear one and go, oh, you could have gone this way. You could have took a left here and it would have paid off bigger. Do you get those moments?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I watch stuff and then go, if you'd have gone that way, that might have been a better thing. Jade and I might have those conversations. Like we'd be watching someone and then Jade would go, if they'd have done that, that might have been this. And we had that kind of conversation. But more often than not, I'm just more, if it's really good writing, I'll be sitting there going, that's fucking good writing. You know what I mean? I'm not really thinking about how I could make it better. I'm thinking, wow, how I love your thinking. I love how you got to that point. James Acaster is a really good example, actually, of someone where you don't know where he's going to go. That's exciting. I remember first time seeing, I can't remember what show it was, but it was a show. There was a mariachi band. He was looking to kiss Yoko Ono. He was on the Titanic at one moment, and then he was somewhere else. It was this whole story.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, he just brought it all back. It was like, it ended up being 3 stories and he brought them all back at the end. And it was such a beautiful piece of writing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where he was going or what was happening, but he managed to just tie these 3 stories up at the end. And I just sat there, just a genius, absolute genius. You know, so I'm more, if it's a good piece of writing, I'm more like, that is fantastic, rather than thinking how I personally could have made it better.
Yeah. See, I'm like that. I've never had a comedy career. I've never done any stand up. I've got notes in my phone of ideas that would maybe make a first stand up routine if I was able to do it. I can't remember what any of them are off the top of my head now. It's probably something like Horlicks, Ovaltine, those kinds of drinks, as soon as you hit 55, they become ketamine after 6 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something that's just like needs a lot of work, but always makes me giggle.
There's something there. There's definitely a seed of something. Right, but you're a musician, aren't you?
Yeah,
that's what you would do.
But
yeah. And
I always watch comedy, and I'm always like, very rarely I'm like laughing out loud, like in the moment of it. I'm always thinking about the writing, the delivery, the this, the that. I'm always like far more interested in the mechanics of it, and the craft of it than necessarily the jokes. I've been watching some. I can't remember what the YouTube channel is, but there's a series of sort of video essays, and they break down like James Acaster and guys like that, and they talk about the techniques they're using, what they're doing here, and I'm just fascinated by how it works, like the art of it.
Yeah,
and I find Jerry Seinfeld is a really fascinating guy for that, because he is just so obsessed, isn't he? He is.
Yes.
He's one of these guys. He is almost like a Shakespearean type character of comedy, isn't he? Every word is thought of and deliberated over. And there's that famous thing where he took 2 years to get the punchline to his Pop-Tarts joke. Which is something about and they'll never go off because they were never fresh or something. And it took him 2 years to get to that.
It does take. It takes. I don't really know. Yeah, watching those people where they. Although I do remember I was with an ex-partner of mine, and she came in from her proper job, and I was laying exactly where she'd left me in the morning, and she's like, "What have you been doing all day?" And I went, "I've just got this bit, and I'm trying to think of this number, like what is a funny number?" And that took me a day to come up with 17.
Right.
I thought 17 was a funny number just for this. But I didn't realise the time had gone so quickly. I was just laying there,
just like a mad scientist.
Yeah, and you're going, right, but if that goes in there, what about that? I find that like just lately I've been getting into watching TV shows to distract myself, because I will waste entire days just laying there thinking.
Yeah,
just nonsense, good stuff, bad stuff. The sun will come up, the sun will go down, and all I've been doing there is sitting there and thinking. And that's all I do. So I don't necessarily concentrate or worry about bits, but I'm always thinking, how can I make that funny? How can I make that funny?
Yeah.
What about, can I write a bit about that? And all of a sudden the day's gone.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld says that as well. He gets his iconic yellow lined paper out, and his pen, the same, type of paper he always uses. And he says sometimes he sit there with something on his coffee table and his notepad, and he'll say, "There's something funny about this.
Yeah.
There is something in this which is very funny. I don't know what it is yet."
Exactly.
And he sits there
and you'll have nothing to show for it at the end of the day.
Right.
And you feel like you've wasted your day. But then you go and do a gig, and suddenly you're talking to someone in the audience, or something's happening, or you're talking about something, and all this stuff just comes tumbling out of your head, and you're like, "Oh wow, where did that come from?" And it's because you were sitting there on the sofa for 10 hours thinking about a funny number. It's a weird one. I haven't really spoken about it either, really, not the process.
I'm just so into the process.
I didn't think I had a process.
Right, yeah. I think it's because, I've heard you talk about it. I heard you talk about it with, we'll get on to Insane in the Men Brain and the Fem Brain soon. I heard your episode with Heston Blumenthal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, what a dude.
Absolute dude, yeah.
Specifically, when you guys were talking about ADHD.
Okay.
And you said you were in the kitchen doing a 360, trying to, what am I doing? The kettle, the drawer, the this, the that, and then you just went, just fucking pick one. Dude, that spoke to me, man, because I've been diagnosed with ADHD since probably 4 years old or something. So
really?
Yeah, I knew where you guys were coming from with that, and we have this obsessive streak in us. So like you said, you'll just sit there and think, sometimes I just come up with the most profound profound shit ever, and I sort of message it to someone, and that's it. But I've got to get it out. Like you got this, like this whole, you get these strikes of inspiration and music. I call them musings because I want to be a pretentious fuck, but
one of the world's great thinkers,
right? And yeah, that's a very ADHD thing, and that's the same I think for a lot of stand-up comics, and especially for me. Like I was saying, like I enjoy the process because I get really like hyper focused into things sometimes, and I think I've got a bit of like an autistic streak there,
right,
where I want to know about the nuts and bolts of it and why that's been put together in that way and how it works. So sometimes I'll be watching some really great stand-up, and you know it should be belly laughing, but I've kind of got my like scientific glasses on. Do you know what I mean? I'm just sort of like picking it apart, and I'm appreciating it for that rather than being like, oh, I relate so much to it. I'm thinking, God, the timing there was excellent. But I know nothing. Of, you know, I've never done stand up in my life. I reckon I'd be quite good at it if I put some time and effort into it. But it's one of those things. It's like you can't just pick it up and think, oh, I'll have a go at this and be quite good at it because the lads at work think I'm funny. Like you have to respect the fact that there are guys that have like you have busted their balls working hard for 10 plus years to get to an established point. And then you get these knobheads, I guess, that come in on the weekend and you know, open mics, or they get an opening slot and they think they're funny because they're the office clown.
Oh yeah.
And they don't know what they're doing, and it falls apart. Like I wouldn't want to be that guy. If I came into comedy to do comedy, I'd want to do it. I'd want to be a student of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Mickey Flanagan said that it takes sort of between 2 and 5 years to start getting paid work.
Yeah.
Or 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 to start getting paid work. It takes 5 to 10 years for clubs to trust you.
Right.
You know, like you can headline or whatever, you know, they go, you're brilliant at this, and they will book you. Your reputation precedes you. Clubs will book you. And then it used to be sort of like between 10 and 15 years where TV would step in and go, right, let's do something with you. You're obviously, you know, and so it takes time.
Yeah.
To hone these skills, like any job. It takes years. There's a perfect piece of material that it's so perfect. It's. I don't know how he managed it, but I just assume it's 20, 30 years in the game, and that's Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald is one of my absolute heroes. I love that man, and he's able to take a subject that if you wrote it on paper, it's horrifying, but he made it. It's such a perfect piece of comedy that. To this day, I don't know how he did it. And that's the bit. I don't know if you've seen it. He's got a bit about how he would kill a woman. now, obviously, straight away, as I've just said it, that's horrific. That's a horrific thing. That's a horrific subject. It's not something that any of us want to say out loud or even think. But he's got this piece of material, and it's perfect. He's just the way that he does it. You have to go and watch it. It's on his DVD, live DVD, and it's one of the most perfect pieces of comedy that is handled so beautifully. Yeah, and it's an awful subject that he manages to make inoffensive.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, even in the bit, there are some things that he says that are fucking horrific. If I was to talk about these things, what he says, I'd get cancelled. It'd be awful. There's no way that I have the depth of touch that he has.
Right.
Yet he makes it palatable. He makes it. You can sit and watch this bit with your children, with elderly relatives. It's one of the most perfect pieces of comedy ever. And to this day, I've watched that 1 billion times, and I still can't work out why something that's so offensive he's made it so inoffensive. Yeah. And I think that, you know, it's incredible.
Dave Chappelle does that often.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He's another one who I will laugh out loud at, but he's again, just watching him work he's the master.
Absolutely the master. Yeah.
And he makes it look like he's just riffing it on the spot. And he might be, but it's so polished.
But that's it. It's all from hard work. Like there are new comedians that are starting out, and they're like, "Why would you drive to Leeds for 20 quid?" And like, that's what you do.
Yeah,
you want to get as much stage time as you can. It's what you do. You're gonna, I've got a car. We bought a new car a couple of years ago. It had 8,000 miles on the clock. It's got 88,000 miles on it in 2.5 years. Yeah. Because that's what you do. You just drive everywhere, doing all the gigs that you can. You spend your days, like I say, laying there thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
That you then take to a gig that night, and that it seems effortless when you see it.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's so much hard work has gone into it that you won't. It looks like I'm just sitting there doing nothing, but I'm not. I'm thinking about comedy. I'm thinking how I'm going to make this story work. I'm thinking about the gig that I'm about to get to and how I get there, what I do when I get there. Am I going to stay over? Do I just get another gig for the following night up in that area? It's all these things going on. And that's the same as Chappelle and all these greats. They've gone through that. They've driven 12 hours in the car to do 10-minute gigs and then drive 12 hours back.
Yeah.
That's how they get to be. That's how they are the way they are. It's hard. It is hard work.
And being a musician is just the same. Like I completely identify with all of that you've just said. I mean, I've spent times like we did a tour of the States and we spent 5, 6 hours, 8 hours, driving to a show, and you don't know what you're going to see when you get there. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what the venue's like, and we're playing for 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, I've been stood in Nottingham bus station at 4 a.m. waiting for the megabus back to London. It's and if you look at it on paper, you go, why the fuck would you do that? You go, there's just something in me that I want to gig, and I want to gig everywhere. And if you say to me, got this gig, it's on Thursday, but it's in Carlisle. Like, all right, fine. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to go all the way to Carlisle.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll pick one up and I'll do one in Newcastle, or I'll do one on the way back here. There. And that's your life. And that's what you do. If you want to be a good comedian, that is what you do.
Yeah.
You travel the country, you travel the world, and you're always working on it. You're not having a day off. It's always, there's a little bit of your brain. It's always spinning, and it's always comedy.
Yeah.
All the time. Imagine it's like songwriters. They've always got that bit just spinning around, collecting words, collecting phrases, collecting pictures, and just grabbing stuff and ideas, and then flinging it in this tombola, and it's just always going, and it's constant, and it never stops.
Yeah,
it's just
two things that I want to talk about there. The one I want to ask: do you think it's a curse sometimes?
Only sometimes when I'm like. Oh God, I just want to stop thinking.
Yeah,
I think that's why you have to put movies on and TV, and which I didn't do before. I was always like, I'm not watching that. I haven't got time to watch that. Turns out I've got loads of time. I've got loads of time to watch The Mandalorian and all these things that I've been putting off for ages. And I don't know about it's a curse. It's a privilege when all the hard work starts paying off.
Yeah.
And this is your life, and it's a privilege. You've worked hard, but it's a privilege at the same time.
And of course, people like ourselves who have such busy minds, such on all the time brains, it's often quite difficult when we meet a lot of people who don't seem to be using 10% of that energy in their brain. And I don't want to say like, we meet loads of thickos, but like so many people seem to be on snooze or sort of half awake going through life, and don't really seem to think much about the stimulus that they receive in their day-to-day life, or dive deeper, or try and find any meaning in anything. And I mean, sometimes, they say ignorance is bliss. Sometimes I just think, God, I wish I could sit there and enjoy that numbskull sitcom trash and just do you know what I mean? Just be satiated by it for a few hours. Do you know what I mean? But I can't. Like, brains are on all the time.
Yeah, but I think people. It's Dave Longley said, another comedian said this. He said, your people are striving for happiness.
Yeah.
And happiness is extra. It's an extra thing. It takes more chemicals to create happiness. But what we should be striving for is contentment. And a lot of these people that you're talking about, they're content. They're happy. They've got a job. They've got a wife and kids or a husband or whatever. They've got a partner and they like it and they're happy with that. So they're not thinking about, they're happy where they are, and that's enviable. I'd like that.
Yeah.
I'd like my brain to just be happy with where it is, not thinking that it's missing out on things all the time. That. Like my dad used to say, he'd find me. I'd just be stood in the doorway of the lounge, and he'd like, "Are you going to come in and sit down, or are you going to go out? What are you doing?" I could never settle. I can't. It's very difficult. I find it very difficult to be settled and content. There's always something. There's an anxiety that I'm missing out on something, or I should be doing more. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Oh my God. And it's exhausting.
Yeah. Mine is always, are you wasting your time?
Yeah. And that becomes a spiral, because you start thinking, I've wasted my time. Then the guilt sets in that you've wasted your time, and then you get self-loathing. You start picking yourself apart, going, "Oh, you're just a fat piece of shit. Why don't you go out and do something? Why are you wasting your time?" And you're not. You're not actually wasting your time. You're surviving.
Yeah,
you're doing the best you can at that time. We could all be doing more. We could all exercise more. We could eat less shit, but all right, I'll do it tomorrow. Or I think that thing about stress will kill you is what we need to be working on. Is that stop stressing, stop thinking that you're wasting your time. You're alive. You're surviving. Just try and focus on that. That's all you need to be focusing on. And we're just bombarded with shit all the time, aren't we? We need to just.
I think with me, it felt like I've always felt like that square peg in a round hole. I've always felt like because of this brain and the energy and the ADHD, I've always been like, I'm not going to exist in this 9-to-5 world. Like you were saying, this framework that we've bunched ourselves in as animals societally. I've always felt like I'm going to have to make my own way. I'm going to have to create my own thing, like falling in and marching to the beat of that drum just doesn't work for me on a chemical, physical level. So I think part of why I'm always doing stuff, podcasts, or I'm a town councillor, I'm the deputy mayor of my town, I've got the band thing going on. I've always got something going on, because otherwise I just think to myself, like, what are you doing? You need to be working on something that's opening doors and stuff in areas that you don't find utterly soul destroying. Do you know what I mean? If you're sat there, I do spend a lot of time playing Call of Duty and
But this is the thing. Most people are the same. Most people are a square peg in a round hole. None of us feel like we fit in. We always think that everybody else has got it sussed. Everybody else has got it going on. Everyone's the other people are anxiety free, and it's I'm the one, I'm the problem, I'm the issue. But it's all of us. If you really look at it, the reason that things like Instagram and stuff like that is so popular, and it's all selfies, and it's all carefully cultivated, curated lives, it's because none of us feel like we fit in. None of us. But we're trying to find some comfort somewhere. And that's why we're all addicted to dopamine hits now. We're all addicted to getting the likes, and we're addicted to that now, because it gives us a feeling that we don't necessarily have all the time.
What these apps have done is if they've given us the ability to be our own PR agent.
Yeah, basically, you're just selling yourself. We're all turning ourselves into a product that we want people to invest in and buy from and get something out of, and it's a funny one. And
it's often a fallacy as well, because I see so many people that, like you've said, this kind of striving for happiness when maybe there should be some content, just feeling the contentness, if that's
just
a word. Contentment, yeah.
That's what,
Instead of, but I know so many people, and I'm not going to put anyone on blast here, but I know specifically of a few accounts that I see where their stories and everything, it's so cultivated into this. I am this success. I do this. Hustle this, that, this, and everything. Never stopping. Do you know what I mean? Blah 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 blah.
Always grinding.
I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and then I see them working in their day job, and I have a day job as well. And you go, oh, how's it going then? It's like, oh, it's slow, not really happening at the moment. And you go, well, that's not what your Instagram says. Do you know what I mean? On your Instagram, you're conquering the world. So it's really interesting that people feel the need to perpetuate some fake Kardashian.
Well, yeah. Everyone wants to be seen as successful.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be seen as smashing it, and the grind is real, and I'm out here grinding, and you're not. You're going up to Asda to get some milk.
Yeah.
It's that. Yeah, what you're doing is surviving.
Yeah. Just existing.
You need to just chill out. It's again. I was talking about this again with Richard Herring the other day on the podcast, and we were saying the fact that we exist is amazing, and that's all we should be focusing on. The fact that we're here, and it's such a miracle that we are here. Us in particular are here. Your sperm was the strongest one, and it got through, and now you exist. And yet we're worrying about the followers we haven't got, and we're worrying about stupid shit.
Yeah,
when really the fact that we exist is enough.
Yeah,
it's enough. But none of us are happy. None of us are happy. We want more, and we want to. I don't know. We all want to be Kanye, and but we're not. Most of us aren't Kanye, and never will be.
Yeah, there's got to be some average people.
Yeah, some of us are going to be right. Said Fred.
Yeah, which I guess moves me on to great segue into talking about your podcasts. Insane.
Can you hear me all right still?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I mean, you're doing you've got your own audio recording here, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to have a lovely clean audio from you and from me, and there's not going to be any of this Zoom shit that we've got going on.
I hope so. I put it on the right channels. I just thought I didn't for a bit.
Oh, I get that. I get that all the time.
We'll find out.
I'm always
we'll find out.
Checking stuff like, is it even recording? Like an hour in. Did I even press record?
That's what I just did. It was an hour, and I'm like, I don't think they're the right lights. Shit, hang on. I don't know. We'll find out.
So yeah, insane in the men brain and insane in the fem brain. Well done on those names. I know you've said before that they're some of your proudest moments.
I'm so proud of myself.
Tell me about these. Tell me about the podcast, because we're just starting to touch on something that I guess is going to lead into mental health, contentment, and other things like that. So, tell me about the impetus of Insane in the Men Brain, because I believe Fem Brain came a little later, right?
Fem Brain was later.
Yeah.
Men Brain came from when I was married, and then that went in the bin. And it was another relationship that it was like, why? Every relationship ended in catastrophe.
Yeah.
Ever since I can remember, and it was like, why does this keep happening? What's going on? And then I met Jade, and we started hanging out, and we were friends, and then it sort of started to evolve into something else. And Jade was, she's like, look, you have issues, and you need to go and sort them out. I'd already had a bit of counselling before.
Yeah.
But this was I needed it. I needed to go, and because you don't think it's you think it's everyone else,
right?
You're like,
until you got 5 deep, and you go, that happened in every one of them,
every single one, and you're like, how can it still be other people's fault when it's not? So I started having counselling, and we sort of, I just learned a lot about myself and why I was doing certain things and why I was being a dickhead in relationships, and then I got talking to comedians in green rooms, and then they were like, how are you? And I just started to tell them. I just started to be honest and go, actually, I've been a bit fucked, and I had some counselling, and I'm getting my head together, and something just happened. Other comedians would just open up and start talking to me about stuff they were going through.
Right.
And and then it just evolved into a podcast where people come on
we talk about our life experiences, and from that, people don't feel so alone. You know, everything that you've experienced, I guarantee nearly everybody else has experienced that same thing. And that's where the podcast comes from. It's showing people that you're not alone, and you're just as fucked as the rest of us. And it's that really.
Were you open to counselling, therapy, and whatnot before you went? Because I know, like I said, I mentioned Kenneth Williams earlier.
Yeah,
and there was an interview with, I can't remember what her name was, sort of fairly famous British actress, who said that, you know, she had been to have some counselling and said to him that she was doing it and that maybe he should go in and talk to someone, and he flat refused to do it because he thought it was going to, whatever his trauma was, whatever was kind of fucked up about him, was what gave him his spark and what gave him his, like, I guess his superpower, I guess, if you want to call it that. And he was worried that having the counselling was going to take his spark away because whatever his art was coming from pain. So did you think, oh shit, what if I'm fucking normal then and I'm not funny anymore?
No, it never crossed my mind. I just knew I was a dickhead and I wanted to stop being a dickhead.
Right. I admire that.
That was
honestly.
it, basically. I knew in my heart, and I know that sounds cheesy, but I knew I wasn't being who I am. We can all be dickheads at times, but I'm not a dickhead. I'm a nice person, and I don't know why I'm hurting everybody the way I am. Why am I hurting everyone? I know Dave's looking at me now. What now? What are you saying? What are you saying? She's giving me the evils. I know I'm a decent dude, and I knew it was in me somewhere, and that's what I wanted to find, and it sort of came from that, really. And we can all be dickheads still, but you kind of I didn't know why I was doing it to people that were really, they were lovely people, and I upset them, and I didn't know why.
Right, yeah, and they're supposed to be the ones that you don't upset.
Yeah,
you're supposed to sort of upset everyone else, but not them. That's
not the people that actually care about you and put themselves out for you. You're not supposed to shit in their hair. You're supposed to be. You're supposed to care about them back. And I wasn't. I was taking it for granted and looking for things in other places that I shouldn't have been. And
so, were you expecting relationships to fill some sort of like void, some sort of hole in you? And then ultimately these people didn't make you feel as complete as you thought you would. And then maybe you're looking for it elsewhere, or you get frustrated with that, or maybe like push them away, or there's a part of you that doesn't feel like you deserve that.
Oh, all of that. All of what you've just said. You don't feel you deserve to be loved in that way. You don't love yourself. You just end up in this quagmire and you don't see any way out. And it was only where Jade just sort of pulled me out and said, right, it was like, I really like you, you like me, but this goes nowhere until you go and sort yourself out. Because I told Jade everything. I've told her every shit thing I've ever done, and she sat there and she still went, all right, well, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So let's go and get you sorted out. And so that's where it all came from, really. And it's hard. You don't want to sit there and go, I'm a wanker. You want to think you're a legend. And unfortunately, I wasn't being a legend. I was being an absolute wanker. And I needed to not be. And it's difficult. It's really hard to look at yourself and go, you're being a bit of a wanker, mate.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So do you think, like, meeting Jade was a big turning point in your life? And I don't want to say, do you think she saved you? Because that's a little bit Hollywood, isn't it? But would you? I'm not giving her that. No. Would you credit her with being, because there's that old thing, isn't it? That old sort of saying or idea that men can be dickheads and wing it their whole life, and then what a good woman, I guess I should say good man as well, or whoever you're with, a good partner, the right one will really make you sort of buck your ideas up and get your shit straightened out. Do you think that was definitely Jade?
I think there's, in my experience, I can't speak about anyone else's. This is just in my experience. Every woman that has been in my life has said the same thing, where they've gone, look, you're a decent dude, but you're this. I don't know why you're being such a prick, and it's happened all the way along, and I think Jade was the first person to really like sort of pull me up by my collar and go, stop fucking about. This is you're creating so much sadness in the world by being such a dickhead to everybody. Sort yourself out. And really grabbed me and went, she really told me how it was. Whereas, other relationships, they've done the same, but I think Jade was more physical.
Right.
I'll tell you what it is. Shall I tell you what the difference is?
What's the difference, babe?
The difference is...
Here we go, she's going to come and join in.
This is the difference, is that I, as much as I absolutely love being with you, you never felt like with me that you were my be-all and end-all of everything. You didn't feel that way, so you... Like before, where you stepped over people before, you couldn't do that with me.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
That's why you listened.
Couldn't walk all over you, could I?
Nope.
No. Walked all over the others. No disrespect, but I was a prick.
Right.
And you can't do that with Jade Adams. She won't stand for it.
And do you think maybe you listen to Jade, okay, maybe it's a convergence of many things. Maybe it's like, one, you're sick of repeating this same shit over and over again. Two, you're getting older, maybe more mature. Maybe the conversation around men's mental health and stuff is opening up. You've been a comedian for a while. Obviously, everyone bears their wounds on stage and stuff. So you've seen a fair bit of it to sort of maybe you've identified with a few things over the years that people said. And three, do you think it's maybe because she's a comedian as well? That maybe there was a part of you was like, you know what? I respect this coming from you because you're not bullshitting me here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's elements of all of that.
Yeah.
Definitely maturity. It's very childish to run around blaming everybody else for your problems.
Yeah,
and being ungrateful. I've been in relationships with some incredible people that have done all manner of wonderful things for me, and I didn't. I appreciated it. Of course, I wasn't a complete cunt, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have done. I was very ungrateful. My actions were ungrateful, and I think you're right. Meeting Jade, who's a comedian and the same kind of creature, she kind of went, I'm not. I am not. This is not happening. You're not doing to me what you've done to everyone else.
Yeah,
it's almost like because Jade had her own. She had her own limits of what she would tolerate, and she's aware of her worth. I'm not saying that the other people I've been in a relationship didn't have that. I'm not saying that at all. But Jade was.
I'm praised by thousands of people.
She was able to turn around and say to me, you can be in my world, but this is what you're going to need to do in order to gain access to this universe.
And I guess Jade is. I mean, I don't know Jade, but I guess Jade is an inherently sort of spiritually very powerful person.
She's very powerful. And I quite like that.
It's attractive, isn't it?
Yeah, I love strong, confident, powerful women. It's and it's But then it keeps you on your toes. It stops you being a tosspot. I've got a selfish streak in me a mile wide, and I battle that every day. And Jade takes no shit.
Truly is the warden.
But don't get me wrong, she gives it as well. She's not Polly Perfect wandering around like she's got all the answers. She's a dickhead as well. Here we go.
I tell you what Rich's greatest sadness is that his bad traits aren't being untidy and being grumpy.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. That makes no sense.
Terrible.
Anyway, back to the action. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I didn't realise I was going to have Jade Adams on the podcast as well.
I know, it's quite the coup.
Right?
He said he didn't realise we can have Jade Adams on the podcast as well.
Well, you will do it whilst I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I have to. What do you mean? We're locked in. I have to do it while you're here. I'm going to go to my other house. Anyway.
Where was I going to go? What was I going to say? No, that's what I was going to say. So Jade is obviously, in her own right, a very successful comedian.
Yes.
And I know you've probably answered this question a million times of, the relationship of having two stand-up comedians in the fold, and two separate careers with two separate trajectories, and that's not my way. That's not my polite way.
Just say it. Just say it exactly how it's in your head.
How does it feel that your partner is a more famous comedian than you, Rich Wilson?
Fucking gutted, mate. It's an absolute travesty. It's disgraceful. It's not on. It's fucking disgusting. No, I'm actually very proud. I'm very proud of everything that Jade has achieved, and I know that I even sound insincere now. I'm not at all. I'm immensely proud. She's worked really hard, and she did. At no point is any of Jade's success. She's not blagged it. It's not been handed to her. She's put the graft in, and it's good to see. And I've been asked that before, but actually people think I'm sort of sitting there quietly festering, like going, "Oh, why has she got that? Why is that happening?" Blah blah. But
a Netflix special,
Netflix, or whatever, Amazon Prime and blah. And, what? But I'm not at all. It doesn't even cross my mind. It's just like I'm nothing but proud of what she's achieved. And I think it's easier as well because I'm busy in my own right. I've got stuff I'm doing.
Babes, you've achieved
And
loads.
I have achieved loads, and I think
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
That's nice.
I don't.
It's just he doesn't recognise it as easily as I do because I'm an absolute legend and he's all like shy and stuff.
I am. I am crippled with shyness and self-loathing. Yeah. At no point am I envious, and do I think there'll be things that she'll do, and I'll go, "Oh, I would love to have done that," but. Like there was a TV show that Jade did the voiceover for, and it was these mechanics, and they were going off and getting classic cars from around the world, and then they bring them back and do them up. And Jade was the voice of that, and I'm like, you don't even like cars. I should be doing that,
right?
But yeah, it's quite funny actually. It is funny. But
and I'm in no way insinuating that you're going to be riding her coattails in any way.
I ride her coattails all the fucking time. I'm like Johnny Utah in Point Break. I am just riding, mate. Oh, of course, you got to use what you've got. And if those coattails are flapping in the breeze, I'm grabbing them, mate. Don't worry about that. I do teach you stuff. I teach you a lot. I teach you how to be really funny. Anyway,
how do you work on bits with each other? Do you have like what's the dinner time chat? What's the bedtime, or maybe not bedtime chat? That's the wrong question, isn't it? But you go, babe, I'm struggling with this, and I want to know what you think. Or are you ever like concerned to bring each other a joke in case the other like absolutely smashes the punchline for you, and you feel like, oh well, it's not really mine now.
We've done it where we've gone, right, today we're going to sit and work on something, and it doesn't work because we end up having an argument. We're very passionate people. But our stuff is it just kind of happens. Like we'll be sat and Jade will, we'll in a conversation, because we're going back and forth, not on purpose, it just happens. We're being funny or one of us will say something and the other one will go, oh, I like that. And you'll go, yeah, that actually fits in with your stuff about blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, you can have that, and vice versa. And it's just kind of in the air all the time. Conversations inspire ideas. It just kind of happens. But if we sit down and go, right, today we're going to write jokes, we'd be punching each other by lunchtime.
Right.
Not physically, but mentally. So it's very unofficial. It's very kind of just in the air. We will.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah. There's been a couple of times I've come up with stuff, and I've done it a couple of times on stage, and I've gone, oh, that really works. And then I've given it to Jade, or Jade's done the same to me. So it's kind of, yeah. Oh, we'll be doing gigs, and halfway through the gig, like Jade's come back a couple of times, she's going, oh, I said your line tonight about blah, 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 but it fitted into what I was doing. And, and same with me. And it's just kind of there,
Yeah.
It's kind of, there's no, unless it's specific bits that are actually Jade's or mine, I couldn't go on stage talking about Serious Black Jumper. That's obviously Jade in it, But it's kind of like I say, it's just in the ether. Well, now and again we'll have a chat and things will come, but we don't sit down and
Where do you guys draw the line with because comedians famously drag their personal lives onto the stage, and I know many. I've seen many bits and acts where they bring up their sex life or whatever with their wife, and I think, God, I wonder if their wife ever goes, "Can you just fucking not talk about that shit, please?"
There's actually,
don't talk about my yeast infection, please.
I wouldn't ever. I would never go that. I would never be that personal. Not about actual things like that, but. I did have a bit recently when
I can't believe I said that. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I go on stage going, "Oh, my missus' yeast infection is really it's really taking a turn today." I've never done that. There are some acts that I've seen. I'm going, "How?"
Yeast infection.
keep that bit in. Keep that bit in.
Yeah, we won't cut that one.
Literally never had a yeast infection.
No, it was an example. We were using an example.
Example.
Oh God. Anyway, but there was a bit. Jade and I were just going through. We're having couples counselling, and then I was been staying at a mate's house just while we figure things out, and then I was doing stuff on stage about it, and just saying like, my missus and I are on a break. And Jade said, "Stop fucking telling people that we're on a break." And I'm like, "But we are." She says, "No, because you're not saying it right. We're not on a break. We're just not living together. It's different. You're making it sound like Ross from Friends." And then this whole bit, I was like, "Well, what?" She goes, "You might end up having sex with someone else." I'm like, "What do you think happens to this when it leaves the house?" Right? What? Women aren't frisbeeing their vaginas at me. This isn't, I got this whole bit. And Jade had said, "Stop doing that bit." And I went, "Yeah, but it's really funny. It's really working." And then we did a gig together before this latest lockdown. And Jade ended up heckling me from the back of the room. And we ended up having this like jokey on stage argument. It was really funny. It really worked. But yeah, that's the most personal I think I've got, really. And it wasn't met with too much enthusiasm. Yeah.
So do you ever check? Do you ever say, "Hey, babe, tonight I'm thinking about doing this bit"? What do you think?
I've stopped saying to Jade about stuff now. I've stopped saying, "Oh, what do you think of this bit?" Because 9 times out of 10 she'll go, "No, that's shit." And then I'll go, "Okay." So now I go and do it, and then I come back and go, "Oh, this worked." So
right.
Yeah. It depends what mood we're in.
So we should probably get back onto the men brain thing, because I don't
know what I'm taking this all over the shop, aren't I? Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. No, this is great. I'm having so much fun with this one.
I hope so.
Have you had any episodes where someone has said something to you, because obviously the show is all about, and the Fem Brain version is all about being very open and honest with mental health. You ever had any moments where you've invited someone on and you think it's going to go one way, and it takes this turn, and you're like, "Oh my God, you've been so honest here that it's almost to the point where you wonder if they should have shared that with the world." Do you know what I mean?
No, it's been pretty. Everyone's been really good. There hasn't been anyone where I've gone, "Oh fucking hell." I was a bit surprised. There's a comedian called Ishan Akbar, and I've known Ishan a little while. And he's a really lovely, sweet dude. He's a really nice guy. But he started telling me this story about him. He was at a point when he lost his mum that he tried to commit suicide, and he told me, and he was telling me all about it. And I think I was really shocked at that to start with. I mean, if you listen to the recording of it, me and him, we're laughing our heads off, and we're taking the piss out of it. But when he was telling me inside, I was like, "Oh my God, I had no idea."
Yeah.
And it made me realise that there's a lot going on underneath that we don't really know about at any one time. Look at Chester Bennington from Linkin Park and Chris Cornell, and they look like they've got it all, and yet look what happened to them. And I think that shocked me more than anything. There hasn't really been anything kind of we haven't unearthed any bodies and things like that. There's no confessions and nothing too dark. Sometimes there's a personal story, and afterwards the guest will say, "Oh, can we not put that out? That might upset my missus.
Yeah.
That might upset someone or other." So, but yeah, there hasn't been anything really dark where I've gone, "Whoa!" Everyone's been really open and honest, and it's I've been really lucky. It's really, really cool.
And was this podcast, was the inception of this to promote vulnerability and being open and starting a conversation and letting people into a conversation via the medium of podcasts to maybe inspire them to open up in their own little, podcast styles with their, friends or family or whatever?
I think it just sort of evolved, really. There was I wanted to do a podcast, as everybody wants to do, but I didn't know what it was going to be about. It just kind of happened into this. I had conversations with a couple of people that I know, like to start with, like Phil Ellis and Michael Smiley, and it kind of it suddenly clicked. It was like, oh yeah, these are the conversations we should be having. This is especially somebody that sounds like me. I sound like a van driver from Kent because that's what I used to be.
Yeah.
And someone like me talking about the fact that I felt suicidal, or I've been crying in the car and I don't know why. It really has touched a lot of people, like people that are like that. Like, for want of a better word, like men, like real men. And that's what started to happen now. We're getting more people like Ricky Hatton and Ricky Grover, and people that are seen as like these hard, no nonsense geezers, as now talk about the fact that they cry in the shower. And this is what needs to happen, and that's why another reason why I do it. It's to show men that you are allowed to feel vulnerable. You don't have to feel like you've got it sussed. You can say to your partner, "I'm really struggling today," and hopefully they're in a position that they can turn around and listen and go, "Well, yeah, tell me about it." It's that really. It's trying to get men to just talk, and
And do you feel like that mission is being achieved? I feel like it is in the last sort of 5 years. I tried to push it within my Instagram stories. I try and promote it here via the podcast, and also as my responsibilities as a sort of a community leader with being the deputy mayor. I try to just keep this message out there because the suicide rates for men especially are so high. And they're only getting higher this year with COVID and lockdown. We really, really have to double down on. Because I'm a big guy as well. I'm 6'9", big bearded guy. Look like sort of kind of got
wow,
like quite sort of like masculine, and I think people would value someone like me saying, "Hey, no, this is cool. This is," because I think there might be a bit of a stereotype there, and you expect it to be a bit more gruff and manly and whatnot. But I think it's important to
absolutely
subvert expectation and be like, "No, you can come and talk to me."
It's even getting to a point. I've seen this where people are now saying, "Oh God, can we not keep talking about our feelings? God, I get it. Yeah, we should all open up." And at the moment, we're in the middle of this massive overcorrection. We're in this massive wave of men opening up, and so it just seems like it seems like everybody now. Everyone's upset. Everybody's struggling with their mental health. Everyone's this and that. But that's because we're all opening up. Suddenly we are all opening up. And so now we just need to ride this wave, get everybody opening up, and then it'll all level out again. But we'll be open. We will all be more open than we were in the past. So we might not even be the generation that will benefit from all this. It'll be the next generation that definitely will. So you're kind of doing it. Even we're opening the doors, we're opening the floodgates. Yeah. And it'll be the next generation or the generation after that will really benefit from this. I grew up in the 70s, and you had to be a real man back then. It was, men didn't cry, men didn't wear pink, men didn't do anything but watch football and drink beer. And whereas
boring,
exactly. Oh, fuck, you hate football, but we're the first sort of generation that are actually opening up and going, it's all fucked. I don't feel strong enough to. Well, that's the other thing. I don't follow football. I don't sit around talking about football. I'm not. And so for years I felt that I didn't fit in because I wasn't into football, but through talking and opening up, I found other men like me that don't like football either.
I'm not into it.
No, and it's that comes from opening up and talking, and we all need to be talking about it. We all, it's difficult, especially now that the roles that we, for want of a better word, that we were all supposed to play in this societal frame, they're all blending into each other now. They're all merging. Like women are hunter-gatherers as well as men, and it was always the men that went out and did that. But now it's more often than not, it's women that are doing that. Jade especially. Jade is the main breadwinner in this house. She keeps us afloat. We couldn't survive on my money. And so you're dealing with that as a man, as an old school man from the 70s and the 80s. I'm now having to deal with that. I am not the breadwinner, and that plays havoc with your mental health, because you're like, I need to be this fella, I need to be this guy, I need to be taking care of business, and it's not as rigid as that anymore. Sorry?
We could live on your money.
Huh?
We could live on your money, but we wouldn't have as many oysters.
We could live on my money, but we wouldn't have. No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't have. Listen, if you lived on my money, you wouldn't have shoes. What are you on about?
Do you find that your experience of therapy and counselling has helped your sort of interview style for that specific podcast? Do you feel like you get into moments with your guests where you think, oh, I know how to responsibly steer this conversation down this avenue because I've experienced being taken down there myself by a professional?
I don't really know, actually. I just seem to have a knack for talking to people and listening. Listening is more important than actually being able to speak to the guest. I think I come to the podcast with I'm learning as well as the audience are learning as well. So the podcast is all about the guests. It's all about them, what their stories and what they've been through, and so I'm coming at it from I'm learning as well,
Yeah.
And it I don't know. I don't really know where it all comes from. It must be an influence of the therapy, my ability to be able to MC a gig. That's a skill that's a skill in itself. I think it all just comes from that. And I'm interested in people. I like people. I want to know about people. I want to know your stories. I want to know you, and I think it all comes from that. Really, I care.
I guess a part of it is there needs to be some tack about it, because you don't want to sound like a shrink, do you? Or you don't want to sound like super like, stroking your chin, and then what happened? Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be like that. Yeah, there has to be that element of conversational. Well,
the thing is,
you have to be relatable as well as just a bloke.
Yeah, but that's it. It's you're juggling all these things where it's a podcast about a very serious subject, but at the same time you've got to make it sort of entertaining. It's got to be interesting to people. You've got I want people to. I think people know that I'm taking it seriously, but at the same time I'm having a laugh as well, and.
Yeah,
it's trying to find that you're subconsciously trying to find that balance. I've forgotten where I was going with that. I've just kindly drawn a blank. What was the question again? Sorry, I just gone a complete blank.
It was about being relatable and not coming across as a sort of chin stroking therapist.
That's it.
Guy.
That's it. Because I'm not a therapist. Yeah. I'm a comedian. I'm a bloke. I'm a man. I'm just a human being. I'm not trained in this. I don't know. I don't have any answers. Can't give you any advice really. But I'm open and I want to learn, and I want to give you a space where you can get stuff off your chest, and then hopefully people listening will be able to go, oh yeah, that's happened to me, and then they'll benefit from hearing that. It's all those factors. It's trying. I do it because I give a shit, and I want everyone else to. I want people to feel better, you know.
Yeah.
And I think me talking about my experiences will help them with theirs, hopefully. Really.
And I've got to admit, I haven't listened to an awful lot of Fem Brain. Jade hosts that, or it has a lot to do with Fem Brain, right?
I host it. That comes from conversations that Jade and I had, and we'd said, and she said, she's like, you think you know about women, but you don't really. You need to learn.
Oh, right.
So then it was like, right, okay. And then I had a few people that wanted to come on Insane in the membrane. Then I'd had a couple of ladies on, and then we were like, why don't we do one where I find out about women and talk to women, ask the questions that you probably can't really ask, like finding out about what actually happens to a woman when she has her period is something that men would be too scared to ask, you know. And I've had conversations with trans people that you wouldn't be able to have it on Twitter, but I've asked questions. You mentioned being tactful earlier.
Yeah.
I had Jordan Gray was on, and Danny St James, who are trans women, and you can hear in the conversations. I don't know how to start the conversation. I don't know how to ask.
I had Jordan Gray on, in season 1, and it took a bit of warming up. I mean, I've considered myself to be quite progressive and accepting and everything, but I started the podcast like, "Hello, nice earrings."
Yeah, because you don't want to upset anybody, and you don't know how to start the conversation. And so with Jordan, I just ended up just blurting out. I was like, right, when did you know you were trans? What does it feel like when if you say you're biologically you're this, but mentally you feel that, and it's all these conversations that you can't have on social media. And that's why it's a safe space for me to ask those questions, and it's a safe space for people to listen and go, oh wow, yeah, I wanted to know that, but I didn't know how to ask. It's really opened up everything. It's been really fascinating.
And you're in really good hands with Jordan as well, because I'm like I said, it only took about 5 minutes of, and that's a normal 5 minutes. There's a 5 minutes with me and you, 5 minutes with any guest, where you're sort of feeling it out, you're getting your rhythm, you're getting the dance on a little bit. You want to make a good impression, you want to be respectful, you don't want to come across as a ignorant dummy or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But with Jordan, it was great. There was that moment of like, oh, I like your earrings. Like just trying to be. I wanted to be like, I'm on your side. I'm with you immediately. But just like within 5 minutes, we were just having a right good natter about anything, everything really.
Jordan is really great is very great as a great person to speak to about the trans community, because because she's just very open with it, and you can ask the questions that you wouldn't normally ask, because she understands that she's a comedian, and two, she understands that this is a very unusual situation for most people to be in. You know, when you meet, not everybody, like the trans community makes up like 0.6% of the population or something. So a lot of people won't necessarily meet a trans person, and so it's gonna, and Jordan understands that, and so you can say, even at the end of the podcast record we did, Jordan was like, so what should we put this out on? Should we put it out on Membrane or Fem Brain? We were able to laugh and joke about it, and it was great, and it underlines it underlines the importance of us having these conversations. And we can't always have them. So I've got this safe space where I can have them. I can have those chats and not get cancelled on Twitter for being an ignorant idiot. So. So, sorry about assuming that Jade hosted it. As I said, I haven't really listened to a lot of Fem Brain. I did hear Jade in whatever I have heard, so I just assumed that was her territory. But Jade I think Jade does. There's an introduction that we did. We did a what do you call it? It's like it was like an advert for the upcoming podcast.
Pilot thing.
Yeah,
right.
It was like, so it was the sample was Jade and I talking about.
Oh, I see.
The
right.
thing. Yeah. So
I'm with you. I kind of want to talk about cancel culture, but we've been here a long time. Let's keep this bit short because I know you want to go off.
I'm all right. Are you all right? Are you all right? You're getting a bit.
good. I'm having a great time.
Fidgety. I don't want you to.
No, it's just my ADHD, mate. I'm just getting a dead bum. It's fine.
And you're 6'9". That is incredible.
Yeah, dude. So I'm also very long.
And you're wedged in under your desk.
Yeah, that comes with its own challenges. But cancel culture, it can be ridiculous. I think that in many ways the points raised are in many situations are valid and important and worth discussing. But sometimes I feel like if you just put the effort you're putting into picking someone up on this little thing here was put into a much bigger pressing issue, the world might be a better place. There seems to be a lot of energy spent trying to find reasons to ruin people's lives.
Oh yeah, some people, because it validates their existence, doesn't it? It makes them feel important. They want to. It's all because a lot of the times it seems that they're not really flagging these things up to raise awareness or to stop it happening. It's all about they've found the story. They go, look, I found this, and then everyone piles on, and then they get all the likes for this story that they found, and now they've got this power where we're going to cancel this person and that person. Bill Burr's got this great bit about they're trying to cancel John Wayne. John Wayne was born in 1907. That's you can't go back and retrospectively punish people for that. It's like now
he cancelled himself when he died.
Exactly, that's what Bill Burr says. God did that 40 years ago. It's not really. People aren't really. It seems to me, people aren't really. They're not really bringing it to everyone's attention for the right reasons. A lot of it is to get the likes and the dopamine from that, and you can't. Yes. Terrible things have happened in the past, but we've learnt from them, and now we don't do them anymore. But you can't keep going back through people's careers and go, "You said that in 1984." You go, "But that's what it was like in 1984." But if you've looked, I don't say those things anymore because I realise that they were wrong, and now I'm in 2021. I don't say that I'm a different person. I've learnt from that. I don't do, but now we're going back. And we're going, oh yeah, you did that. Therefore, you don't get to have your life anymore. You don't get your career anymore because way back when you did that. There needs to be more of an understanding, but we're not. We're looking for these things to be a part of. Let's get this person. Chill out. Why don't you chill out? Why don't you instead of doing that? Why don't you focus on something positive? Why don't you write something? Why don't you do something? Why don't you're like you say, all this energy that's put into cancelling people. It just doesn't do anything. And it's a waste of energy.
Yeah.
Most of us are decent. Most of us recognise that racism is terrible and still exists and needs to be dealt with if you come across it. Or sexism or whatever, most of us are decent enough to know that those things are bad, and we do what we can when those things rear their ugly head. But going out and looking for something that was said in 1975, is a fool's errand. It's a waste of time. That was then. This is now. We learn from these things rather than going back because you're going to get to a point. Most people back then didn't think the way that we think now. So of course they had strange ideas and odd ideas when it came to feminism or sexism or whatever. Yeah. And that was then, this is now. But you can't then go, right, well, I'm not going to watch the films of John Wayne ever again because he said that. And you're like, well, we'll end up not watching anything. If you go back, someone somewhere has said something about something or has had this opinion or that opinion. You end up watching nothing. You'd end up, there'd be nothing from history that you can watch.
And listening to nothing as well.
Listening to nothing. You hear rock stars were probably having sex with underage groupies. And I'm not saying that's right. Of course it's not right. But that's what that was then and this is now. And if you start picking everything apart, there'll be nothing left. And it's
I think if you start
isn't it?
really picking everything apart, it gets very, very ugly for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And we should be more forward facing, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Especially with all the division in the world now and what we've got going on. It's time to be looking forward.
I think so.
Yeah.
And, calling out the wankers when it happens. Call them out, which is what we're doing now. Whereas in the past, they didn't. Obviously, they didn't. Whoever was, like Jimmy Savile was doing whatever, and people would turn a blind eye because Jimmy had this power. He had a power, and he knew where the bodies were. He knew stuff about other people that were doing stuff, and that's But now we're in a position where we will call stuff out. We've learned from the past. Going forward, that won't happen again. Hopefully.
And I think for a while, stand-up comedians went, "Oh my God, oh shit, oh dear, is it over now? Is the party over?" Do you know what I mean? And I don't know what's happening, but I've always said throughout this is that I think stand-up comedy that goes against that grain is going to be the next really popular thing. Because I think it's going to get to a point where people are like, all right, we just think for ourselves on this, make up our own decisions because we're all pretty moral people, I'd like to think, and we will make our own choice on whether we think this particular person deserves a career or not, or whatever, or my ticket money. And I don't know. I think Dave Chappelle is one of the ones who's kind of just pushing that, just trying to push that envelope slightly back into, hey, this is comedy. We can talk about anything here. And like you were saying with McDonald, I can't remember his first name. What was his first name? Norm McDonald. Is he the guy that does some of the voice work in Family Guy? And
no, that's
got a really deep voice.
That's what's his name? I can't remember his name. That's shit. What's his name? Lawrence? No,
he does.
I know
Joe.
who you mean. Yeah, I know who you mean, but no, not him. Norm McDonald.
Oh, okay.
He was in Adam Sandler movies as well, like back in the 90s, and you'd know him if you saw him. He was on Letterman a lot.
Okay,
but
I think I've seen him in some things. But like you were saying, he took a thing like murdering women, and did something with it which wasn't offensive, was probably quite thought provoking.
He made it palatable.
Yeah, and amplified the conversation, let's say. And I think, this is the way that comedy's always worked. And there are some things you think, I don't know how the hell you're ever going to joke about that. And you can pick what you laugh at, what you don't laugh at. And that's part of it, isn't it? But yeah, I think stand-up is probably going to have to, soon, it's going to have to find the sting in its tail again. And it's going to have to be very intelligent about how it goes about doing this, but I don't think cancel culture, as it has been the last couple of years, is really sustainable.
No, it will die out eventually. Because now people turn around and going, "Well, you're not cancelling me. Go fuck yourself. What are you talking about?"
Rogan does this. He's his own boss.
Yeah,
can't cancel him.
It'll get to a point. Yeah, you'll just go fuck off. Look, I said what I said. Go fuck yourself. It used to be if there was something you didn't like, you just didn't watch it. You just didn't look. You just didn't, like, I don't know, like Rising Damp or whatever. If there were problematic things in it, you just didn't watch it anymore. It's madness. It's like, who do you think you are? What, you're going to just ruin someone's life because you don't like something they've said. People are entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
And be it right, be it wrong, they're still entitled to it. It's an opinion. Opinions are neither right or wrong. They're opinions.
Yeah.
And it's people justifying their own existence by getting into these mobs. And look, I was part of that. We brought down this person or that person, and it's like, well done. Now what are you going to do? You're going to just sit in your mum's spare room and cry? Why don't you go put that energy into something decent, into something positive? Put that into your own body of work,
Yeah.
Rather than chasing people around because they said something shit in 1974.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, I mean, there are many things that need to be called out and there are many things that need to be policed.
Absolutely. There's loads of like anyone who's a sex offender in this industry. He should absolutely be booted out and should be shipped off to Mars or wherever. But some people say the wrong thing at the wrong time sometimes, and it's like, well, hopefully they'll learn and not do it again.
Yeah, I think it just needs to evolve slightly. I think it's had a really a ferocious beginning. And I think it's something that isn't necessarily going to go away. But I think it needs to adjust and adapt how it does it, and then it can become a potent weapon for the right things, not necessarily just someone's tweet from 2010 that didn't have an apostrophe in it.
There should be that. There's room for redemption and learning from your mistakes, and there should be some forgiveness. Like, there's all like people. Makes me laugh when you see people in their bios like be kind and empath and all that, and then you see what they're saying. You're like, you're not being empathetic at all. You're being a prick. You're not being kind at all. You're piling onto this person because everyone else is piled on, and there should be there's another way of doing it, and it isn't that. It's not that.
Yeah,
I think Be nice to each other. That's what you should do. Yeah.
Well, I think this has been a great chat.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Third time lucky.
Yeah, we got there in the end. I can only apologise. I hope it sounds all right, because I've got to be honest, my brain is just so fogged up.
No, this has been great. This has been you'll know the one that sometimes, and I'm lucky to get this quite often with my podcast, but some pods are better than others, aren't they? And sometimes you're having a podcast and you're sort of 3/4 of the way through it and you sit there and you go, this is fucking great. This is a good one. We're on a good one. And I've got that now. I've got a little buzz from it. I've had a good conversation.
Yeah, mate.
So thank you very, very much for that.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much to my guest this week, Rich Wilson. If you want to check out any of his stand-up material, any of his partner's stand-up material, Insane in the Men Brain podcast or Insane in the Fem Brain podcast, we will be leaving links to all of these things and more in the show notes descriptions. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And if you can tell just one friend about this podcast that you enjoyed, that would mean the world to us, and it really, really would help. If you want to follow the podcast on Instagram, you can. It's @TheGiantPod, and that is the same for Twitter. If you want my personal Instagram account, you're going to have to go to Andy_S1S. This podcast was produced by the knee-slapping Harry Williams. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We will see you again next week on The Giant Pod with Andy Wrintmore. Thank you. Goodbye.